AM. News and current affairs. This is Observer AM.
Good morning. It is 2 minutes after 7 o'clock in Antigua and Barbuda and throughout the Eastern Caribbean.
Good morning to all our listeners and viewers. If it's Friday, it's another edition of Likkle Byte Ideas brought to you by Samuel Fields Consulting. We are so delighted that you've joined us here today, and it's a special celebration. In fact, it's a trifecta. We are celebrating, of course, in Antigua and Barbuda, our 40th anniversary of independence on Monday. So everyone is in an independence mode. I was trying to get my colors. I just kind of ran late, but I am wearing my independence sentiments all over my heart today. Secondly, it is World Internet Day. And for many of you who wake up in the mornings to news and views in Antigua, we have a special guest that we will be bringing who will be talking about the internet and how it's changed our lives over the years. And then thirdly, of course, we are in our final show for October, where we're celebrating National Financial Planning Month. So lots to talk about, and I'm so excited to introduce our guests today. Let's get right to it. And our first guest is, of course, our CEO, Mistress Megan Samuel Fields, who's with us every Friday. Megan, how are you today?
Hi, good morning, Dorit, and good morning to our listeners and our viewers. I'm doing very well today. I don't have my independence outfit on, but like you, in my heart. I was supposed to get my outfit, didn't work out, but it's all over my heart.
I know. It kind of came upon us very quickly. There's a lot of talk about it, and voila, here it is. Yeah, well, welcome. And of course, our very special guest. I kind of feel like I'm switching roles today. Well, if you haven't heard, if you probably saw the trailer, so it's no longer a surprise, but I'm so delighted to welcome Mr. Darren Matthew Ward from Observer AM to our show this morning. Darren, how are you today? Okay.
Oh. Hello, audio.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, Darren. Can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
We're hearing you.
We're hearing you. He's probably having some internet challenges, but...
On World Internet Day.
On World Internet Day. How interesting. Okay, I'm sure Darren will be back. But Megan, let's get started. Doing anything special for Independence this weekend? Any special celebrations? I know, Antigua is slowly reopening. I see beaches may be reopened. Any plans for celebrating our 40th anniversary of independence?
For me, I am going to be taking it really, really quiet this independence. And I plan to spend some time reflecting. I think it may have been on Darren Matthew Ward's show, I'm not 100% sure, where the question was asked to the guest, 40 years on, do you think Antigua is where it needs to be? And when I heard it, I paused and I thought, that's something I really need to think about, because as a person, when you turn 40, it's definitely a milestone. It's definitely a point in time where you stop, see where you've been, and then look forward to what's to come. And so I intend to spend some time thinking about 40 years of independence for Antigua. What does that mean for Antigua itself? But what does it mean for me as an Antiguan who loves our country? What does it mean to be 40 years, having 40 years independence? And if there is anything that I can do for the next 40 years for Antigua. That's what I plan to do.
That's very interesting. I hearken back to our independence celebrations, and I can tell you exactly what I was doing. And I remember, I think it was a Sunday night, I remember. And at the time, I'm not sure I even thought about what, you think about the future. I was always a daydreamer. I don't think I even thought that far into the future,
Definitely
about
not.
40 years and how old we would be and what my life would be like. So I totally get where you're going. It should definitely be a point of reflection for all of us, almost a pivotal point. If you're 40, you should have your act together. But if you don't, you still have time. That's how I see 40. It's one of those, milestones where you need to check yourself. And if you are where you'd love to be, fantastic. You celebrate it or celebrate aspects of your development. But recognize that 40 there's still a lot of time at 40 to get on the right track. That's how I see it.
They say life begins at 40.
At 40. Yeah.
So maybe now is the time for Antigua to just live.
Yeah, but we've, along the way we've had some accomplishments. There've been some good times, there've been some bad times. We've lost some people along the way. It is what it is, and I just feel, looking at what we've gone through as a country or throughout the world with COVID, we have so much to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I think Darren is back. I just saw a note.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Here
Hi,
he is.
Darren. There you are.
I think the problem I foresee is that because of the fact that I'm on a phone, when a call comes in, it disrupts the signal.
Dear.
So that's what happened the last time. So I'm actually
Okay.
trying to see if I can address that. But in the meantime, good morning and happy independence to you both and to everyone who is on the virtual link up.
Fantastic. And I
Good
see that
morning.
you are adorned in your Madras shirt. I'm so jealous. I wish I had one of those.
It's not quite, I wouldn't use the word adorn.
It's a vest. It's like a vest.
It's a vest, yes, it's a vest. So I'm not as adorned as I probably would like to be.
Yeah. Westcott is so 1981. It's now, maybe back then it was a Westcott. Now
We
it's a
still
vest.
say it.
What we use, a vest? That's what we say, vest.
We still say Westcott.
I know. Yeah. Well, Darren, we were talking a bit about independence and what independence means for us. Any special plans to celebrate independence this year, seeing it's our 40th anniversary?
I'm gonna try to get in some exercise.
Good.
I'm going to enjoy some good food and spend time with my family. I really don't plan to do anything too much. I have a pretty hectic schedule, as I'm sure many of us do. So, like Megan, I see it as an opportunity to get some R&R, spend time with the people who matter, who really matter at the end of the day, your family, immediate family especially. And just reflect on where we are as a country and where we've come from, which is important to know where we're coming from and where we need to be headed for an all-enveloping society that benefits as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
So that's it.
Fantastic. So, Darren, everyone knows you from Observer AM. It's a voice that I hope you got a kick out of our little trailer that we did in the beginning, because when you hear that music, you know what time it is. Even if you don't have even if you're not looking at the time, you walk away from your device. For those of us who log on online, or if you're listening to the radio, once you hear that music starting up, it's 7:00. And Darren Matthew Ward is about to tell you what time it is in Antigua and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean.
And oftentimes, if it starts a little late for whatever reason, I get blamed for having people leave their house late, especially when the traffic is very backed up. Because if you don't leave home by a certain time, you're in trouble,
Yep.
So it's a problem.
My kids, my children spent a few years in Antigua going to school, and once they moved back, there are times I'm listening to you in the mornings and they hear the music and they start dancing, and they say, "Oh my God, I remember that."
Dancing. That's interesting.
Yeah, they start doing, they start doing a little wiggle. I guess it's nostalgia, and they say, "Yeah, it's 7:00. Grandma's gonna right about now. Grandma would start saying, "Girls, get in the car." So you're definitely making impressions in lives all over the world without even knowing it, because that music is so distinctive.
Right.
Yep. But tell us a bit more about Darren Matthew Ward. We know you from the radio, and I guess you probably walk into places in Antigua, open your mouth, and people who may not be familiar with your face, they definitely know the voice. Right. But tell us, I understand that, Observer is more your morning gig. You kind of, sometimes you say your day job. Well, Observer is your early morning job, because from what I understand, you leave Observer and then you start your other job. So tell us about the other side of Darren Matthew Ward and how you spend the rest of your day typically after you leave Observer Radio.
All right. Good question. And yes, you're correct. Most people know me as the host of Observer AM. But I also, for the last 23 years or so, I have been an insurance practitioner. In the earlier part of my tenure in the industry, I would have been a life insurance advisor, primarily life and medical insurance or health insurance. In the recent past, I would say for the last 6 years plus, I've been serving as the life and medical services manager at Bryson's Insurance Agency. So we essentially provide corporate plans, corporate health plans, as well as individual health plans, to provide people with that financial safety net when medical situations arise, which they often do. Even if it's a bad case of the flu, or someone needs to have their cardiovasculars checked out, or individuals just want to make sure that they're doing okay. Insurance is an important part of that. And so that's what I do. As I jokingly say, that this is the real job. This is where the real money is made. The radio is real money. Not to give the impression that it's Mark Zuckerberg territory, but yeah, on a serious note, the radio is somewhat fun. In a good way, because current affairs has been something that I've always enjoyed. I've always been interested in global affairs, regional affairs, how politics works. We criticize politics and politicians all the time, but it's an intrinsic part of how we develop ourselves. It's either politics or it's what we see in parts of the world, like Haiti, or some parts of Africa where there's a coup every month, it seems like. So, as bad as we think we have it, there are many, many people around the world that have it a lot worse than us. So I enjoy chronicling what goes on, and I have a particular interest in dictators. Just to be brief, I pay very close attention to characters around the world that have dictatorial tendencies. And I usually call them out on the program. I'm sure you're familiar with the names. Recep Erdogan of Turkey, and Jair Bolsonaro. And of
and your
course,
friend in Russia.
Everyone, like my good friend the Tsar, as I call him, Mr. Putin. Somebody called me one time and said, "Dan, I think you like Putin, I said, I pay close attention to him.
Yeah, he's an intriguing character.
He's an intriguing character, without a doubt. So yes, the radio is fun. But at the same time, I see it as a serious. I see the role as a serious one, because I think there needs to be civility in national discourse when it comes to politics. I think too often we get personal, we get nasty, and I try my best to be fair to everybody, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. And I try to encourage others to do the same. And hopefully, it's moving the needle in that we can disagree without being disagreeable, as my great-grandmother used to say.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So with that, let's segue to discuss the internet. Mm-hmm. It's World Internet Day.
Right.
I did some research, because it feels like the internet has always been around, even though I do have memories pre the internet. But just curious, what is your earliest memory of using the internet?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a at Royal Antiguan, as it was known then, may have been Cable and Wireless. There was I guess you could call it a forum or an expo where, I was going to find out about this internet thing. Of course, in those days, it was dial-up. When you had to use your phone line and you hear that annoying noise when the modems connect. You remember?
Oh, yes.
And you had to wait like forever for a page to download. That was my first memory of the internet. And I saw it instantly as a window to the world where I can stay here in Antigua and I can know what's going on around the world. So in a way, my interest in what's taking place globally and regionally, it clicked. This thing could be a tool for that. All right. And those are my earliest memories of the internet. Of course, it was in its infancy. What we know and experience is a far cry from what obtained back then. I'm actually not even sure. I'm not even sure what year that was. But this was, of course, before the age of smartphones, because my first phone was a Nokia, the brick phone, which, of course, had no internet capability, right? You had to be on a desktop computer.
Absolutely.
Then came the laptop. Then came the iPad. And then, of course, our cell phones, which we can't seem to separate from our hands.
We can't.
It's everywhere. No matter where you go, everybody has a cell phone in their hand. I mean, I saw the Chancellor of Germany giving a speech to the European Parliament. This is the outgoing Chancellor, Angela Merkel. And she had her cell phone in her hand. So just a quick sweep of how things have changed and how things have been miniaturized, where the power of information is at the fingertips of everybody. So a long-winded way of saying that was my early memory of the internet, and I have an appreciation for how far we've come.
Fantastic. Megan, how about you? I mean, what is your earliest memory of the internet? I thought about asking this question last night, and I spoke with a few friends, and I think we all kind of agreed, for at least my friends that I spoke to, was during college. I remember when when you didn't want to, you suddenly recognized that there was an alternative to the microfiche. Remember the microfiche?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I actually Googled, because I was like, how did microfiche work again? I just couldn't even
Oh
process how we did this before the internet.
What's
and
microfiche?
I saw the big drawers with all of the reels.
So
And
Darren's
I said,
asking
oh my
what's
goodness.
microfiche. So it's how we would get information. You go to the library and they would have
It's that
all
these
the
rolls,
information
was stored on a tape.
Yes, it's like a tape. And
So
you
it's
would have
almost
to
like you would
scroll it.
Yes. Yes, there's a machine that would scroll it, and then you would have to go, you would know where it is. Trust me, I don't know how we did it, because I was
Well,
watching
it
the process
worked
last night.
because that was a big improvement from going to the library and
And having
pouring
to
through
write
books.
it out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
So-
at least, you could download it. Yeah.
So for me, I went off before I left to go to university, I worked at ACB in the computer room. And so that was a big to do because there weren't many computers in Antigua. So I left thinking I knew about the computers. I didn't. And of course, we had these big mainframes and things like that. Went to university and realized, okay, of course, this is before laptops, but they had the desktops. And going to the library, started off using microfiche. And it was during my university years that the word internet came up. And I think it was more towards the end of my university years where they were talking about the internet and how great it was and the things that it could do. And it seemed unbelievable. But when I look back, even the things that they were saying then that it could do, so way past that now. So way past that. So it's just amazing that, as you said, with your phone, if I leave home without my phone, I sometimes feel like I don't have an arm. And I'm trying to see how I can get back home just to get the phone, which, silly. But that's just how much we depend on it now.
Mm-hmm.
Megan,
we
do
do
you
our
remember
banking on it.
Netscape?
Yes, but I don't remember what was Netscape.
That was one of my friends said to me, remember in college, the company was Netscape. That when you went to the library,
right,
that
right.
Netscape
Yes,
was the
of
company
course.
that
Yes.
support. So
Yes,
of course,
yes,
I
yes.
Googled, I'm the queen of Google. I Googled Netscape just to refresh my memory.
What are
And
they
you guys
doing
should
now?
really read it because it was all about Netscape. Netscape was then absorbed by AOL.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's a big fight with Google and what have you. And I was so happy to at least go down memory lane because it would have taken hypnosis to remember Netscape. That is so far removed
Wow.
from my memory.
We've come a long way. We've come a
we've
long
certainly
way.
come a long way. We've
have.
certainly come
Yes.
a long way. What so Darren, tell us about your plans for the future, for the show. I don't know what your long-term plans are, but in terms of the trends that you see and I'm not thinking content-wise, I'm thinking more functionality, connectivity. How do you, and let's not even focus on your show, just more in broadcast, in communications. What is the outlook for that whole space, looking at some of the trends that we're seeing in the internet? We see now that what's Facebook's new name again?
Meta.
I saw a joke this morning. I first saw her on Facebook, and then I met her. So where are we headed?
That's good.
Where are we headed? Just your forecast in terms of connectivity, communications. Where are we headed?
Exactly. Interestingly enough, we're speaking about today being World Internet Day. Radio is moving in the direction of more connectivity, more real time. Radio you can see.
Yep.
I mean, this morning we were able to link up with Synkits, as we have with other countries around the region, where we can see each other in each other's studio or in each other's space. And from Antigua, the listeners can see the gang in Synkits. And there we are exchanging ideas, exchanging what's happening in our respective countries. So any listener or viewer, because when somebody calls into my show, or when the ministers, especially the politicians, they want to touch everybody. They say, welcome to or good morning to your listeners and viewers. So there's a recognition that radio and TV are
merging,
coming together, right? And the content is being enriched as a result of that process. And of course, the internet is the backbone to all of that. Yeah. It can't happen without the internet. And so it's fascinating the power of the internet and how it can bring us together. Of course, there is a not so pleasant side, but we're not going to focus on the not so pleasant side. Well,
the dark side.
I prefer not to.
Yes.
The dark side, which we have all seen, and it somehow brings out the worst elements in us as human beings. But as far as radio goes, radio you can see, there's more connectivity, there's more responsiveness. A listener can send me a WhatsApp picture of some accident out in Old Road, and I can instantly let McBurney know, McBurney, there's an accident out at Old Road. If you understand what I'm saying. So things are instant. So you have to be on top of your game, because information is free-flowing and it's flowing at the speed of light, literally. And now we're onto fiber now, which is, of course, the speed of light. So that's what I see. And the consumers of information are very knowledgeable. And so you have to be humble and recognize that you don't know everything. And there are times when I'm guided by the listeners, because I'm only one person, obviously. My production team, which is very limited in terms of numbers, very limited. The listeners sometimes tell us what's going on, and that's okay. The key is how to monetize that.
Well, and that's one of our favorite words, the monetization. You always have to be guided by that. And just to touch on what you're saying, user-generated content And, and I would imagine listener and viewer generated content in a lot of circles is considered to be more authentic. So it's definitely a democratization of information. We've been hearing about that for so long.
Yeah.
And for me,
Correct.
I see the internet doing that, whereby it gives everybody a chance to communicate. Everybody gets to be a reporter. Everybody gets to be a spokesperson. So I think we're definitely headed in a very interesting direction as far as communications with the internet. But Megan, I want to come back to you, and being our CFO financial person, tell us where you see the whole finance industry going as far as the internet.
Well, it's already going in that we have so many. So when I look back, even within accounting, where we started, where we had to do everything manually, then we got systems, certain software where we could go on the computer, and instead of manually adding down a list of receivables or payables or whatever the case is, you have software that does that for you. And we now are doing things in the cloud where you're not stationary. So I could be in India and still have access to my account information. I can still deal with my clients and things like that. So I think more and more, that's where we're going to be seeing more and more of that, where there's no barrier between the financial person and the customer.
So more remote access.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be much more of that. That's what I'm seeing. And it just makes it, and it allows for more players as well to get into the financial arena.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting days ahead.
What's that saying that they used to say years ago? We don't even say it anymore because it's so real. There's no need to say it about the world being a global village.
It is. It's
we used to say that a lot in 2000, and I think it was more maybe an affirmation or a projection, but I think it's so real now that we don't even, it's a given that the world is a global village. And I mean, I work with vendors all over the world. There's with the internet, there's no limit to your communications. People can work across borders. You can find skills and talent wherever it resides, and of course, if you can find good talent at a cheaper rate in Bangladesh. I actually work with somebody in Bangladesh. Never met him in person, but does amazing work. And the good thing is when I'm sleeping, he's up, so I wake up to my work being done. So it's an amazing opportunity that the internet provides to us, and we just wanted to touch on that topic because it fuels all aspects of business. And, for the most part, helps to improve our productivity, the way we work. And, I only see it growing stronger and cultivating more opportunities for business in the future. But Darren,
and one other thing I wanted to say, though,
yes.
Dorit, is because it is such a part of our lives, and I'm going to speak to the older ones, because the younger ones, that's what they're growing up with. So it's just part of their lives. But I would say to those in my age group, get with the program, because the internet is not going anywhere. So I've heard my counterparts will say, "Oh, I don't understand this. I can't go with this Facebook thing, Instagram, and all those things." We need to get with it because there's no going back. There's no going back. Absolutely. So let's get on board.
Absolutely. And I want to invite our listeners to start posting questions. We always like hearing from you. We have some experts here today that this is your opportunity to get some of your questions answered. So far, a couple of questions. I see Joanne Colborn. She's a regular. She said, late in joining, what did I miss? Joanne, you missed a whole lot. But you know what? we're on YouTube. We're streaming via YouTube. So whatever you missed today, Joanne, you just get on YouTube. I hope you already are a subscriber of our YouTube channel, and you can catch up on earlier conversations as well as previous episodes. Joanne also wants to know, she's mentioning that it has really bridged the gap. The internet has really helped to bridge the gap and allows us to feel that we are easily connected. I couldn't agree more. She says we have to get on board. For the rest of our viewers and listeners, we hope that you're sharing the live. And also, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line, give us your feedback. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. But Darren, one of the highlights of this show is we're here to share ideas. And as we often say, if I have an idea and you have an idea, that's great. We both each have an idea. But it's when we bring these ideas together and find ways to work together that the magic really happens, and we have those eureka moments of how we can work together and really make a change. So Darren, share with us a special idea today in light of the trifecta of celebrations that we're having today. Again, let me remind everyone, we are on the cusp of celebrating Antigua and Barbuda's 40th anniversary of independence. That's number one. Number two, we are celebrating World Internet Day, October 29th. The internet actually was born in 1969, but wasn't really christened until I believe, was it 2003, I believe? I may have the dates wrong. And we put a slide up to show you every 60 seconds what happens on the internet. There's it's fascinating how many emails are sent and what have you. We'll definitely leave it up so that you can take a look at it. And we'll also post it on our Facebook page so that you can be fascinated to see how much activity is enabled by the internet every single minute. And the third celebration, of course, is, as we've been celebrating all through October, National Financial Planning Month. So, Darren, I know that was a long-winded question, but
I'm guilty of that sometimes, I suspect.
It's hard to punctuate when you're speaking.
Yeah.
I'm big on punctuation when you're writing, but when you're speaking, sometimes it's so hard to run on sentences.
And sometimes you're trying to formulate your thoughts.
Yes.
So,
you know it. You know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Darren, share with us a great idea that we can take into the weekend, a big celebration weekend.
This is not necessarily a new idea, but I think it is one that we need to perhaps have a renewed focus on, because the internet that we're speaking about today is in many respects an equalizer. And when I say equalizer, an equalizer for the disparities that we see around the world. So we tend to consume a lot. We consume content on Facebook, we consume content on YouTube, and more I'm noticing that a lot more of the content, especially on things like TikTok, which is something I'm still trying oh dear.
We're hearing you. Oops.
Yeah, we're hearing you. He probably got a call.
Dropped.
Yep.
Oh.
I'm still trying to figure out TikTok myself.
Oh, yes.
But
I'm figuring it out too.
But
I will.
When they tell you it's a trend, you better listen.
I will, because I'm trying to keep up with my children as well.
Oh, yeah, because TikTok is not going to wait on us. So we need to find out more. I mean, I watched the videos and some of them are really interesting. And it's a really nifty way to communicate. But I still I'm not on TikTok, but it's definitely on my New Year's resolution to get to learn it more. Maybe we can do it together. But as we await Darren's return, how about telling us your great idea for today, if you have one, Megan?
Here he is.
Oh, here he is.
Sorry.
You're back.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's all right. We totally understand.
The vagaries of the internet. But anyway, we need to be more producers of content, is what I'm getting at. We need to produce more content. This is an excellent example. Sorry. This is an excellent example of that, where we need to be more creative and channel our creativity to producing more and more content for ourselves and for the wider world, because there are no borders largely with the internet, except of course you live in certain countries and if your content is not approved by the authorities, but we're not getting into that. The point is we need to find ways of being more creative, and for those of us who have found ways of being more creative, to export that creativeness on the internet so that we can monetize it. We spend more time consuming. It's just like how we practice and how our economies are set up, where we essentially consume a lot. We import most of our food. We import, of course, cars, because we don't make cars. We don't have any comparative advantage in making cars or computers or high-tech devices generally. So we have to import that. So what can we export? We don't have oil. We, at least as far as I know, I think there's some talk about exploring it. But the point is, we're not like Saudi Arabia or Qatar or the UAE. We need to find something to export. And I think there can be a marriage or symbiotic relationship between our creativity, the brilliance of our music, the brilliance of our cultural expressions, and even the brilliance of our intellect. Now we have a fourth landed campus of University of the West Indies at Five Islands. We need to find ways of exporting our intellectual property more and monetizing it. And I think that is the one idea that I contemplated as I dozed off last night in preparation for this. And the final, well, there is a two-part, and the second part to that is right, 2 capsules. I did admit that it'll be 2 capsules. So hopefully they're as effective as cod liver oil. The second part is to the best time to start on a new financial plan. I think all of us have been affected by this pandemic. All of us, right? People who are well-heeled are perhaps not as well-heeled. Individuals who are struggling are still struggling, or even struggling to a greater extent. The time to start on a new financial path is now. Even if we're still I don't know if we're at the middle or near the end, who knows, but sitting and wondering and waiting for the pandemic to come to an end before we, gather our marbles or mangoes or whatever commodity you want to use, is going to be too late, because at the end of the day, we're only going to live so many more years. I mean, for those of us who are, in our late 30s, 40s, 50s, there's only so much time we have to engage productively and earn a proper income. So now is the time to start to plan financially. And well, fortunately, thanks to folks like Megan and others, we have the expertise, the knowledge base, and there's nothing wrong in saying you need help. So those are my two ideas that I just want to put out there.
Fantastic. I'll take those 2 capsules any day.
Any day. They're great.
So Megan, that was a great idea. You tell us, what's the tie-in terms of SFCG and your idea in response to Darren's idea?
I tell you, this show is amazing because, and there must be a spiritual concept flowing through it, because one of the things I thought about, so I am a fan of Red Table Talk, big time, love it, and I even love the way it came about. So it's no big fanfare.
Is that with Jada Pinkett? Okay.
Jada Pinkett Smith. So 3 generations, Jada, her mom, and her daughter, and they sit around a red table and they discuss issues that are pertinent, and they're bringing a guest. And so I actually did think in preparation for this show, I wonder if we could have and I wasn't sure what table. I thought green, because we're doing finance and money, but our money isn't green. But I just thought it would be great if we could have some type of, so similar to what Darren was saying, some equivalent of the Red Table Talk here in Antigua focusing on financial health, focusing on financial wellness, and broadcasting it internationally. So hearing Darren, that's my confirmation. So we got to do it.
Now, when you started talking about the Red Table Talk, I'm like, whose kids are you going to get to come? Yours or mine? Because I know mine would not be caught dead.
Oh, they'll come. They'll come. I'll call them.
I know mine would be like, what?
But it doesn't have to be quite in the same
I know what you mean.
way,
I know what you mean.
You know,
it doesn't have to be a generational thing.
Yes,
necessarily.
But I think we need to do that. And with our campus here, we have great minds. Let's tap into them and see how we can export that.
Well, let's see how we can. My big idea is how can we spin off Likkle Byte ideas into big ideas?
That's
what was that show for? What was that Steve Harvey show? Little Big Shots. Little Big Shots. Yes. So how do we make Likkle Bytes big bites and get an extended group around the table to discuss some of the our financial planning and our financial management. Of course, because of COVID, it needs extra care. If you haven't thought about it before, regardless whether it's from a personal perspective, whether you own a small business, whether you're into big business, whether you're into insurance, based on what we've been through. And the big talk is sustainability. How are we going to rebuild stronger? How are we going to rebuild our ideas, our strategies to make sure that if we're ever hit by something of this nature or something similar in the future, that we have the tools and the resilience to bounce back. So, it's definitely a tipping point for us from financial wellness, from personal wellness, from technology, all around us. It should be a pivotal moment for us to really stop and assess where we are, how we got here, and how we can build back stronger and smarter. So,
and as Darren said, and it starts now with your financial planning.
Absolutely,
it starts now. Don't wait until. I mean, when you said, Darren, that we shouldn't wait because we don't know when the pandemic will end, I can confess in 2020, about October or so, I was saying, I just can't wait for 2020 to be over. Figuring that with the end of 2020 will be the end of COVID.
New slate.
And here we are.
In 2021. Yeah.
So now is the time.
Absolutely.
We have to start now.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has been an amazing discussion. We've actually managed to talk about 3 topics in one episode, which I don't think we've ever done.
3 Likkle Bytes.
3 Likkle Bytes for the price of 1. Picture that.
For the price of 0.
Yeah.
What's that?
For the price of 0.
No, there is nothing is free.
Yes.
Nothing is free.
Not even the internet. We haven't monetized that.
Yes. We haven't. And Darren, Megan will tell you that's my favorite phrase.
Yes.
When we're brainstorming and we start ideating, and of course you have all these ideas. I'm usually the one to reel us back in. Okay, that's all great, but how do we monetize this? And recognizing that not every aspect of your business can be necessarily monetized on its own or in the early stages, but that too is something that you have to keep your eyes on when you're dealing with, virtual events, especially anything that is digital. It's very difficult sometimes because it's not necessarily seen as tangible in certain quarters. You have to keep your eyes on the monetization possibilities. So that was also a very great point that you brought up. But listen, again, to our listeners, we're going to wrap up momentarily. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. I see that we have a few names that we haven't seen in the past. So we welcome all of our new listeners, and we know that you're sharing the live and that you're telling your friends that there's a show on Friday mornings where you can get some really good ideas to integrate into your personal life as well as your professional life. Another housekeeping announcement that I want to make, starting next week, we are moving to a new time. We've gotten feedback that Friday mornings are just challenging for a lot of people to fit into their schedules. Although we do stream on Facebook and you can go back. I understand for some persons, they want to be a part of it. They want to be able to ask questions. And so while they like the YouTube availability, they want to be a part of the show. So we're going to try a new format. So starting next week, next Friday is November, what is it, 5th or 6th? Is it the 5th?
November the 5th.
November the 5th. Thank you, Darren. Starting next Friday, we're going to move to Thursday. So it's really going to be November 4th. So no show on November 5th. We are moving to November 4th at, is it 6 p.m.?
Yes, it is.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we will put all the notices up on our Facebook page. You'll get our weekly newsletter advising you of the change. Just a reminder. But I encourage you, if you have not yet liked our page, please like our page so that you can get the notifications, and so you won't have to remind yourself as much, because you will get the notification reminding you of the time of the show. I'm looking to see if we have any additional comments. Let's see. I don't see any new comments, but I want to give our two guests an opportunity to wrap up and give us their final words. Darren, Megan, let's start with you, and then we'll move to Darren. How would you sum up our discussion today?
Well, as usual, it has been very, very informative, very, very interesting. And it was, for me, great to speak about the internet and to recognize how far we've come, but also to recognize how much more we have to go. And it's similar to what we were saying about our independence. And so we know it's 40 years. We have done quite well, I would say, as a country for 40 years. But we have an opportunity. Life begins at 40. We have an opportunity to do so much better with the internet. So I quite liked our conversation. And of course, we spoke about financial planning. And I really like what Darren said. You need to start now. So all in all, a wonderful show. Thank you, Darren, for your input. And I enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Darren, take it away. Tell us, give us your parting words.
My pleasure. Thank you. As we look to celebrate 40 years of political independence, I hope that we all, as citizens of Antigua and Barbuda, at home, abroad, that we all recognize, and not just recognize, but govern ourselves in the full knowledge of the fact that we have to be as
Okay, I guess
as united as possible. There's a tendency, I'm still here. There's a tendency to for division, to sneak into our body politic and to sneak into the way we interact with each other. You know, the latest, of course, being vaccinated and unvaccinated, red or blue or green. We're too small. We're only 100,000 people. That's a small town in major countries around the world. We can't afford to be as divided as I think sometimes we are. We have an enemy in COVID-19. We have to confront the economic realities of vaccine nationalism, which is really a problem around the world. We have a problem of climate change. Of course, we have the problem of being small island developing states and not being able to perhaps access or have the financial structures that help and sustain our development. So we need to try our best to recognize that we are all in this together. And even if we disagree, I'm going back to that point that I started with, even if we disagree on the path forward, it doesn't mean that that other person is stupid or doesn't love Antigua. It just means that they see things from a different perspective. And that's the thinking that I try to cultivate every day or during the week when I host Observer AM. And for those of you, of course, it would be remiss of me not to invite folks who don't have a financial plan, of course, to have a chat with Megan and her team. And for those who don't have an insurance plan in place. I mean, I think most people now understand the importance of insurance, but procrastination can be a heck of a thing. And of course, the older you are, the more costly it is. And also, even if you have all the money in the world, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to get insurance because you need to be in good health. And of course, the older we tend to get, just like a car, the more problems we tend to give. So the younger you are, the better it is for you to make a decision and get in an insurance program in place, both life and health insurance and pension. Don't forget that, because we got to retire and live comfortably. So those are my parting thoughts. Happy Independence to you, David Samuel Whitlock, and also Megan Samuel Fields. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure. I think, it was a lot more. I thought the questions were going to be more, I don't know.
I thought you was going to be a conversation.
Oh, no. Conversations. We, people like real talk. So we try to keep it very light and conversational. Right. Well, this has been an amazing show. Like I said, we were able to cover 3 main topics today. I want to thank Darren Matthew Ward for switching roles with me today. I've been on Darren's show, so it's nice to, switch roles sometimes. And Megan, thank you once again for always being a great guest on our show. It's our 40th anniversary of independence. Our theme this year is resilience, reflection, and recovery. And I pray that we will all pledge to be good citizens from here on, if we haven't been already, or to continue to be good citizens. I want to wish everyone a happy 40th anniversary of independence. Continue to enjoy World Internet Day. And of course, we had an exciting month looking at financial planning. And of course, today it was good to hear about insurance, which is so critical in everyone's lives. We've lost so many loved ones throughout COVID that hopefully one of the lessons that we take away from it is that we really need to be focused on our health, but at the same time, ensure that we have insurance, medical, life, and a retirement plan. So to everyone who joined us here today, we want to thank you so much. Just a reminder that our next show will be next Thursday at 6 p.m. We are switching times. So we hope that you will join us. Tell a friend. If you missed any part of our show or any previous episodes, please visit our YouTube channel, Samuel Fields Consulting, so that you can look at previous shows and, of course, share them with your friends and colleagues. So it's been a great show. Thanks once again. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Happy Independence, everyone. We love you all. Bye.
Happy Independence.
All right. Bye-bye. Happy Independence. Stay safe.